Hey, everybody. Welcome to this live edition of Turnaround Marriage. We are Scott and Rachel. We're here to share with you something near and dear to our hearts and something that we've actually learned recently. And the topic that we're going to cover today is how to get 20/20 vision in your marriage, especially if you realize that there is something that isn't right. And if you realize that maybe the vision that you have for yourself or your marriage is a little bit off, that things could improve, that things you could be operating in a different manner, then this is exactly the place for you. We're so glad that you've joined us.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. We are Scott and Rachel. We help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. And it's our joy and honor to walk with many private clients and also many of you as we encourage you in your Christian marriage. We sort of have been there, done that, got the t-shirt in terms of having a struggling marriage. And on the outside, it actually looked just fine to many, but on the inside, we really had some very, very dark days. So we're glad you're joining us.
Absolutely. And we want to just say, if you're joining us through Facebook or YouTube, make sure you subscribe, make sure you click on the like so that you're seeing repeated, you're getting all our information, you're getting all our content delivered to you. And if you're on Facebook, make sure you join our Facebook group. Just search Turnaround Marriage. You're going to find our private Facebook group, and you can just join there and you're going to get all the content as well. And we'd love to interact with you and give you lots of content as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we were going to just have a quick marriage moment and talk about marriage in general. And really what our heart's passion is, why we do this is because, like I said, we have been in the darkest of places, and we were in full-time ministry at the time and struggling to raise our children, struggling to preach and live out the gospel because things were so rough at home. And so really our mission is about changing the world one family at a time and advancing the kingdom of God. And we have realized it is very difficult to do that when things at home are bleak and when you can't communicate and when you're constantly frustrated or angry or there's mistrust or there's been broken trust or whatever. And so our heart is to strengthen the marriage, strengthen families for the kingdom of God.
And we simply didn't see back then. You know, that's exactly right. So guys, we want to tie in an experience I had the last few days with getting back that 20/20 vision for your marriage. And that is exactly what I experienced. We were walking the other night, I think it was Friday night, and we were coming back home, and this large bug flew into my eye, which I've had tons of bugs fly into my eyes over the years and different things that have flown in there. And I go to get it out, and I think it was maybe like a, what do you call the firefly or something. And it didn't get all of it out. And there it was, like hunks in there. And it just drove me crazy. It was just crying, a lot of tears coming out of the tear duct, and I could not get that to stop. And I thought I got everything out. I washed it out in the sink, and it just kept getting so irritated, and it got worse and worse. It got like infected, and maybe you can even see a little bit of redness in the eye, but I was able to get to the eye doctor and get things taken care of just yesterday morning. Fortunately, no damage, and they were able to get everything out. It was really fun with a cotton tip shoved into my eyeball. That was fun. Let me tell you,
favorite thing.
That was a blast. But when it was in that place for the few days of having this something maybe damage in there, maybe something still in there, I didn't know. It was like the only relief I could have would be to close my eye. And if I closed one eye, it made it really uncomfortable trying to keep one closed for a long time. So the muscles are getting tired. So really the only relief I had was to close both of my eyes, and I couldn't even see at all. And so you drive us everywhere, and we're interacting with family. I wasn't very, very, very much there. I was really disconnected from the whole situation because there I was with my pain going on, my periphery gone. I can't really see. I can't really drive. And it was really hard to focus on much else. It was really hard to think. It was really hard to look at or talk about anything else, especially in the context of a conversation with other people there. And it was no fun having the only relief I could find was just to close my eyes and think and listen to music. It was really awkward.
Yeah. And I remember, I think it happened, Friday or Saturday night. And so just the last several days were just no fun. And it's like, I found myself getting irritated with him. And I just thought, well, if you probably just ignore it, it'll go away.
Well, you didn't tell me this part.
Well, no, I didn't. But I'm just like, would you stop complaining about your eye? But it's like when there's pain, and especially when that pain is sudden and it's affecting something important, like your eyesight, something that maybe you take for granted, and then it's like all of a sudden you can't see. It became all encompassing, and I just thought, well, if we just, do you have to go to the eye? Like, come on, like, can't you just wash it out the sink? Like, just sit there and rinse it out, or put your eye drops in, or just close your eyes and rest a little. But it was like the more time that went on, the worse it got. And Scott's eye got so red and so infected. And one morning he woke up, it was crusted over, and it was just all inflamed. And I thought, all right, it's time to go to the doctor. Okay, time to go take a care.
But one day later, and I doubt even people can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks so much better.
It's amazing,
and you're not whining about it anymore. So
not too much, still a little bit.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's like when there's pain, especially when it's a sudden onset, and it's like there's something that happens. Like, let's say in the marriage, there's so many analogies here. But if something happens in the marriage, and all of a sudden there's this sudden, like, you find out something, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it's like all encompassing. That's all you can do, is focus on the pain and sort of nurse that wound. But it's like the longer you wait to handle it, the longer that you wait to take care of it, to get it looked at, to fix it, the more it's going to fester and get worse and worse and worse until there's possibly permanent damage. It was like, let's get this taken care of now.
Right. It's so right. And when we realize the pain that we're living in is blocking us from seeing other things, whether that is a direct sharp pain or if it's a dull pain. And what I mean by pain is living in less than what God has designed you for, living in a place of that things are not right, personally or in your marriage, whatever that looks like. And we'll hash that out a little bit more, what we talk about. But when that is there, it's hard to see the other person properly. It's hard to see your circumstances properly. I could seeing, this is my dominant eye too. And there I am looking at my left and less dominant eye, not seeing things in my periphery. I left things sitting in a chair because I forgot about them. I couldn't see them. And because it was so focused in my less dominant eye. And so similarly, guys, we're sometimes looking at our circumstances and not realizing that we might be hurting other people, not realizing that we're not thinking of them, and realize that we are not bringing our best to the marriage. How could we be if we're in that place of hurt? So, there at times thinking about ourselves when we were really disconnected, at one point in our marriage, and we could not, I couldn't reach across this barrier. There was too much pain, and you were too much pain, and it seemed like we were miles and miles apart. And that was a really, really lonely place to be. I couldn't see you, and you couldn't see me. And that is not how God designed it to be. So obviously, in talking about this, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, the more pain that you are in, you really can't focus on the other person and their pain. Right. You can't really even see it because you're just all encompassed in your own pain. And then that leads to even more pain because your spouse is thinking, well, can't you see me? I'm hurting too. And it's like, it can become a vicious cycle of more and more disconnect as you each sort of bathe in your own pain without being able to take care of this thing that's causing the pain.
Absolutely.
And get back at it.
And of course, the best way to connect this is what Jesus taught us in the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah. And he says in Matthew chapter 7, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank that's in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. Of course, this is talking about in the context of the church, but it absolutely applies within the context of marriage. When you begin to remove that splinter out of your eye, whether that is, heartache over being disconnected, or you're feeling frustrated, whatever it is, when you start to remove that speck out of your own eye, you begin to see. You begin to see things how they really are. You begin to see the context of your own marriage. Like, we can truly see some of even now, if we slip into dysfunction, we can clearly see that. And we know that even in the heat of the moment, even if we're acting poorly in that moment, we can see that now. We did not see that for the longest time. And I would say the splinter in my own eye did get worse. It got bigger and bigger with time. And so when we realized that there is that splinter, what did we do? Like my options were, okay, Rachel, can you look in there? And you're like, my eyesight's not very good.
I can't see
with my own eye. When I had this actual speck, which was obviously a splinter is worse than a speck. But what am I going to ask my kids to do it? Like, what do I do? Go to the ER and they're going to splash it? No, I knew I needed to go to the eye doctor who put my head in that clamp thing, and they would take care of it with sticking drops and things into my eyes that I hate. I could never do contacts. But so we needed that outside help to get this eye fixed. And you may very well need that outside help for you personally or in your marriage as well.
Yeah, because when that plank is in your eye, and remember, it's the plank in our eye and the speck in our, but we even saw that even a speck can really cause some serious damage. But when you have that, you cannot see to heal it. And like we said before, if not dealing with it and just hoping it goes away, hoping it gets better, sweeping things under the rug, let's not talk about that. I don't want to upset. If I address this, then I know he's going to retreat, or she's just going to get defensive, or whatever it is. It's like, what if that is actually making it worse? What if that's just like the pus and the crust and the inflammation and the redness getting worse and worse and worse? It wasn't too pretty.
No.
It wasn't too pretty, but that's the thing. It's like the longer that you wait and the longer this thing festers, the longer that you're holding that in your heart. And we're going to talk about what those specks actually, or those planks actually are in just a second. But it's like the longer that you keep them in there, the worse it gets. Just like this pain in your marriage could be festering over a period of time. And it could be getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we get that 20/20 vision? How do we get that vision back if we realize that things are not the way that they should be, that we're not seeing ourselves, our circumstances, or our spouse the way that we ought to? Well, obviously, the answer is not to go and look at the speck in your brother's eye or your spouse's eye in this case, but rather to look at the log that's in your own eye and make sure that that's removed. Now, note, it does not say here to not realize that there is a speck in your brother's eye. It doesn't say not even to call them out. He's calling them out for being hypocritical, for not realizing that they had a plank in their own eye first that they needed to remove before they could speak to the speck in their brother's. So that's true within the church, but it's certainly true within the marriage too. When you realize that there has been something blocking your view, there's something getting in the way of you being your best self in the marriage, and that has got to be removed. And that is really the key for there being growth and communication and building up of trust. It's not, so many people are just sitting around waiting for their spouse to remove the speck from their own eye when they need to remove the plank from their own. That's where real change happens. That's where it comes from. Not sitting around and waiting. Of course, your spouse is a sinner. Of course, they've made mistakes. But if you're going to sit around waiting for them to change, you may be waiting the rest of your life. But what if you were to remove that plank from your eyes and you began to see, and you could lovingly speak to the speck that's in your husband or wife's eye? Do you see how everything can change? So a lot of times people think, oh, it has to always take two people to change a marriage. I'm here to tell you, if one changes radically, owning their own stuff and removing, with God's help and maybe outside help, the plank that's in their own eye, things can radically change. Imagine if you were to put away defensiveness, for example, to realize that if in any way, even if you're a 1% at fault in the marriage and the way things have been working, if you were to own that completely and you were to pray out to God, search me, O Lord, and know me, and to own your sin and to get that log out of your eye right now, imagine how things could change. So understand, guys, you might have been thinking, oh, it's my husband. He's not been really nice to me. He's not really thoughtful. He's not romantic the way he used to be. And you're getting frustrated. And that frustration is building. And you are showing up that way in your marriage and in your home. You are frustrated genuinely. And you could point to them all you want. But unless you change, you are showing up frustrated in the marriage. Who would want to be near you if that's how you're showing up? And if you can see that, and with by God's grace, have that removed, everything can change. And so if you are having frustration, that is absolutely going to lead to bitterness. It might lead to contempt towards your spouse. It's absolutely going to lead to unforgiveness. And it's going to be like that eye that's untreated. It's going to get worse and worse and worse over time. And so, guys, I hear people say all the time to me, Well, I just need to heal first. Is that really true? What does that actually mean? Did I need to heal of the junk in my eye, or did I need to go to an eye doctor to remove that junk and give me the right medicine? It's a heck of a lot better like that because we got the right help. Mm-hmm. So is it actually true that you need time to heal? Because needing time to heal, what people really mean is they're hoping that it's going to go away. And if you're hoping it's going to go away, it's actually going to sit there and fester and not get better. It's going to get infected. Mm-hmm. And it's never, ever, 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 ever going to heal. That's why you have to remove that plank. You have to get that healing. And it doesn't necessarily have to take a long time. And when you do that, it can totally change the dynamic within the marriage.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely can. I love that so much. And so let's talk about what are some of those things that this plank could represent, right? There's so many different things, but we feel like it could easily be a bad habit. It could be a persistent negative emotional state that you kind of hang out in all the time. It could even be a false belief about something. So we're going to kind of break those down a little bit and talk about each one,
right,
and see if any of this resonates with you. Okay, so the first one, let's talk about habits. When we're in pain, often we try to handle the pain in some kind of dysfunctional way, whether we're drinking, whether we're overeating, or we're overspending, or we're spending all this time scrolling, or we're numbing, or you could even be, going to porn or some other addiction that's just got you to where the pain is lessened just for a little while, but then it comes right back, right? And so one of these habits could be this plank that you've got to get rid of. It's like it's blocking you from having the marriage that God has designed for you, and it's got to go. It's got to go.
Absolutely.
But it could also be like a negative emotional state, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of people are living in a perpetual place of negative emotional places, states. And so like we've talked about frustration, if you're showing up in frustration, if you're living in that place of frustration, it is showing up in a lot of different areas, not just within your own marriage. A lot of these places become your home. Like this past weekend, there were moments that I didn't hurt as bad. And I was probably a lot more fun in those moments than in the times when it was hurting. But the reality was that I could not escape that place that I was living. And oftentimes people, because of their circumstances, because of the things that have happened, they're like, well, of course I'm angry. Do you understand what he did? Of course I'm bitter. Do you understand that we've not been able to be intimate for a long, long time? Of course I'm frustrated. I have to do, of course I'm raging. I do anything it takes to get his attention, and I'll do that if that will get his attention. So if we're showing up that way with all these negative emotions, it's not just impacting our marriage. It's impacting our children, our grandchildren. It's impacting the way we're showing up for work, and living in these places. You're not fun to be around. You're not fun to be close to. Who would want to be near someone who's frustrated, angry, bitter, raging, hating people? Of course you wouldn't want to be close to that.
Yeah. And it's not about just kind of suppressing these feelings, but one of the things that we really teach our clients is how to feel these deep feelings and release them quickly and let them go, and then sort of choose their emotional state where they want to live. There's so much about our physiology and our focus, what we're doing with our mind and our heart, that really can lead the way. When you rehash the same problems over and over again, doesn't it just make you angrier and angrier and angrier, right? It's like there's no resolution there. And so we believe that you don't have to rehash every little thing in order to get out of those negative states. But the other plank could be these false beliefs that we might have. And this is one of the biggest things that we work with our clients on, is like identifying these beliefs, because it's like you've lived with it so long, you've believed it for so long that it's affecting your life as if it's true. When it's absolutely not true. Something like, well, I didn't marry my soulmate, so I guess I'm just doomed to be, in this emotionless marriage where we can't connect at any kind of deep level. Or life is getting away from me, and so I guess it's too late for us. We've been in these ruts for so long, it's just hopeless for us. Or, well, she cheated, and that's it. I can't ever trust her again. If she did it once, she'll do it again. Or, if only he would fill in the blank, or if only she would stop fill in the blank. Or if she actually liked me, she wouldn't show such disdain for me. Or if he really loved me, he would come after me. He would pursue me. He would stop withdrawing and shutting down. And we start to believe these lies as if they're true. And guess what? They start affecting your life just as if it's true. That's what Craig Groeschel says in his book, in his latest book. And it's like, it's really true. The enemy of our soul wants nothing but to destroy you. He comes to lie and steal and kill. And he's out to destroy your Christian marriage. If you are a God-honoring couple who loves God, he is after you. You have the biggest target on your back. We've seen it in our own family. We've seen it with very close friends of ours. It's like the more in ministry you are, the more after proclaiming the gospel you are, the bigger the target on your back, the more the offensive attacks are going to come from him. He's going to feed you these lies. He's going to give you all this evidence that they're true. And I'm telling you, when you believe them as if they're true, they're going to affect your life as if they actually are. And you guys, we've got to first identify them, and then we've got to learn how to cut the legs out from underneath them. And that's one of the other things that we really do with our private clients. Yeah,
it's so true. And you're spot on. And Rachel, the reality is when we're living in these spaces and in these firm held beliefs, you are probably living with oxidative stress built up in your body, which absolutely makes the beliefs and the negative attitudes worse. It's absolutely, scientists are telling us that it actually changes your DNA when you're living in negativity like that. When you're living with that kind of negative emotion and those negative beliefs, it's actually changing the wiring of your mind. And it may already be there. It may be locked in. It may even feel like it's impossible to change. And that's another part of the lie. That's exactly what the evil one would want. But by God's grace, we teach our clients literally to change and rewire their thinking, because that's what needs to happen a lot of times. But let's make sure we also understand that there could be the plank could be a sudden event that happened, or it could be a gradual thing, like the sudden event, like the thing out of left field. A lot of stressors that come, maybe the loss of a loved one, or a sickness with a child, or one of you even, and it brings in a lot of fear and a lot of confusion. There's a lot of sudden things that can happen. Someone loses their job and suddenly we're fighting, and it could be a lot of things that just come out of nowhere, out of left field, or it could be a 2 or 3 things at once, at least what it feels like. Or it could also be more of a slower fade. It could be more of like the gradual slipping away. You used to be so close, and eventually you're not thinking about each other, and you're focused on the kids, and you're focused on life, and you're focused on what you want to accomplish, and you forgot those little sweet moments. You forgot those moments of encouragement. You forgot to be texting each other and encouraging each other and loving one another along the way. So guys, whatever it would be, any of these reasons, whatever that plank is in your own eye, it cannot stay for you to see with 20/20 vision what is actually going on in your life and in your marriage. And when you can see, when it's gone, and you can see and understand the dynamics within your marriage, everything changes. So guys, you're going to understand what we're talking about here today is not, here's 5 little tips to fix this, and here's a book that we're going to recommend about communication in your marriage. All these things are important. The way that you're operating and the tools to operate in your marriage really do matter. But if you've got a big fat plank in your eye, it doesn't matter what tools in the world that you get if that's sitting there, because that is the major problem. That's the major problem. And guys like me, I felt like I wanted to go to a specialist. I wasn't going to just go to a doctor, the ER doctor. No offense to ER doctors. They do amazing things. They're well-rounded. But with this, I wanted to go directly to my doctor, my eye doctor, who had all the right tools and could really help me to get that taken care of right away. And she did. She was awesome. And so maybe some of you are out there sitting there thinking today, I realize that Scott and Rachel, you've hit on a few things, and I realize that there is this plank in my eye, and probably in my spouse, he's got it, or she's got at least a speck in theirs too. And then this is exactly what we want to encourage you guys to think about, is that this has got to be removed. And if you realize that you can't remove it on your own, certainly we're praying for that. You're asking God for that, and you're realizing that you're still not able to see. You need someone else to help pull that out, to help get truth of what's going on in your circumstances. We'd encourage you guys to reach out and book a call. We do a free breakthrough call for everybody that's interested. You just go to turnaroundmarriage.com call. And what we do is spend about 45 minutes to an hour diving deep into what's not working in your marriage right now, talking about what you hope and believe that God has for you in your marriage and a path to get there. And if we can help, we're going to make that clear what that would look like. If there's something better, if there's something else we'd recommend, we're going to point you in that direction. Either way, you're going to get clarity, key word for today, about exactly what you need to do next to get back the marriage that you know is in God's heart for you.
Yeah. So go ahead and reach out and book that call. Go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. And until next time, we are wishing hope and health for your Christian marriage.
Have a great day. Lots of love.